This is
the first one I had to go back and watch to remind myself. Everything else, I just had like a mental note. I like to think of myself as almost like a wrestling encyclopedia. This one I'd never seen, actually. And oh my God, was it bad.
This one, I will say this. I never watched ECW when it was on in the past. I've caught up on a little bit of it since then.
You're lying, because I watched ECW with you over Xbox Live on WWE. So you're lying.
I'm not talking about... Are you talking about the crap they tried passing off as ECW, like, with the silver belt? Like, no. I'm not talking about that crap. This, however, I don't know. Like, watching this show was like drinking a bottle of Epicac. Like, you're going to vomit, like, uncontrollably for the next, like, half an hour after it. So, and while you're drinking it. So, there you go. I don't know. This gave me just thoughts of... This was basically an indie fed that had a small TV deal. That's all it was, in my opinion. They had a few big names, not many. And it was in a broom closet of an arena. Let's just get into it. ECW Hardcore Heaven 1995 took place...
Can I just, before we start, I just want to say sorry to everyone up front. Just there. Okay.
Yep. Took place July 1st, 1995. Total attendance, I can't believe they jammed this many people in that little building. 1,150 people. That's crazy.
How is that not a fire hazard?
Who said it wasn't?
Oh, okay.
Paul Heyman knew a guy who knew a guy, okay? And by the way, like, this show really gave... You know how they talked about Paul Heyman was like a Jim Jones type, cult leader, whatever, that really he knew how to ring the bell and get the dogs to bark.
Yep.
Like, this really freaking proved it. Like, he had these people in the palm of his hand. Just like, he could have said anything and they would have cheered him like a god. And it was insane thinking about this guy was carrying around a gigantic cell phone just a couple of years before this, like, managing the Samoan SWAT team. Yeah,
Sometimes you just never know.
It was crazy. But anyway, getting into the actual show, we'll get to that part here in a minute with Paul Lee, but he was not officially Paul Heyman here yet. They start the show just in the middle of something. There's not really an opening. They just start with Raven, Stevie. They kept switching back and forth between calling him Steve Richards and Stevie Richards. I will say he had an epic curly mullet, though.
Hell yes.
But it
wouldn't be 1995 without that.
Hell yeah. But there was Raven, Stevie Richards, and Beulah all coming to the ring. It took me a while to realize that Raven and Richards were not a part of this match, because they kept talking about how they're the tag team champs, and they kept pumping it up. They were not a part of this. This match was shocking to me because it was the Pit Bulls, number 1 and number 2, with Raven, Richards, and Beulah, versus the Dudley Boyz with Big Dick Dudley. The Dudley Boyz were Dudley, and Snot Dudley. The original concept... I have not seen this movie, but I've heard of it, and I've seen pictures of it. Was it called Slapshot? Name of the film? This Raven came up with the Dudley Boy gimmick. The entire premise was they were going to be based off of the characters from Slapshot, and these guys looked like the guys from freaking Slapshot. So I was like, okay. I did not know there were Dudleys before Bubba and Devon, but yeah, so they weren't even in the company at this time. But yeah, so that was weird. Halfway through the match, Francine is in the front row flirting with Richards. No one knows who Francine is at this point. She kisses Steve, and Beulah gets into a cat fight with her, and Joey Styles loses his mind. Raven grabs Richards and Beulah both by the hair and then walks them to the back. The Pit Bulls get pissed about this because Raven's like their manager / like leader. They hit a double super power bomb on Snot Dudley, who they kept calling Little Snot throughout the match.
Because that's clever.
Yeah. He was clearly the precursor for Spike. Dudley hits Pitbull number 1 in the back of the head with like he does like the Bret Hart elbow off the second rope, and then he puts his brother on top of Pitbull number 1. The Dudleys get the win. Pitbull's interview with get interviewed by Joey Styles after the match. They say that they're sick of Raven not having their backs and change is coming. And there's like no easy transitions for any of this. They just do the whole snowy TV thing for a couple seconds, and then boom, you're in the next segment. It's hard to keep up with. This next match, this is what I was talking about with Paul E. Dino Sendoff and Don E. Allen versus Chad Austin and the Broad Street Bully. I had to look up their names because they were, just jobbers. It was a who the hell are these guys match. The match is filled with botch after botch. Chants of "you all suck" rain down on them. Joey Styles says at one point, "I think it's safe to assume this match will never, ever make air. Therefore, I'd like to take this time to welcome you all to WCW Slamboree, where nobody can tell the legends from the current headlining wrestlers." Just buried. 911 then comes to the ring with a terrible dub theme, because his actual theme was Frankenstein by the Edgar Winter Group. They obviously can't use that, but it was just a bad dub theme. But he comes out with Paulie dangerously. 911 chokeslams the hell out of everybody, and Paul welcomes them to EC bleeping W. There's a lot of bleeps on this show, by the way, just letting you know. Because apparently it was cool to swear back then. That let him know.
Hell yeah.
That let him know you were edgy. God dang it. That and being big and sweaty.
They got attitude.
Speaking of being big and sweaty, next match.
Oh my God, this is the one I didn't want to get to.
Hack Meyers versus Big Malli. First of all, Hack Meyers' nickname is the Shaw. The hell is the Shaw? You know?
No.
And they just kept calling him the Shaw. And I was like, what is that? The crowd chanted it when he did punches. So I guess there's that. Big Malli is like 500 pounds, has a humongous fupa, and he's like, his whole head is shaved except for like the back of his head. He has a long ass hair, like as if he couldn't make himself weirder looking. Good Lord. Anyway, Big Malli crushes Hack in the corner 3 times, power slams him, and then hits a big splash. Then goes for an elbow, misses. Hack gets an arm on top of him and gets the pin. This was weird. This all took about 10 minutes to accomplish, by the way. I read it in 5 seconds.
That was far too much.
Yeah, it went on forever. Big Malli then hits 2 more splashes after the match and leaves. Why did this drag on so flippin' long and only like 3 moves were done? This is awful. But what was not awful?
He couldn't even, his arms, something I gotta point out, his arms didn't touch his chest at all, man. Like his forearms, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they were so stiff that he was constantly.
He looked like.
It's hard to explain.
Okay, well,
I'm not laughing at that. It's not funny. It's just like they marketed this as like a thing.
Well, yeah. Well, imagine
like, you didn't see that part, but like that's this is how you stand. Oh my God.
Well, you remember Charlie or Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory where the girl blows up into a blueberry?
I do.
That's Big Malli. If you guys have never seen him, imagine that, but as a grown man and not purple. This next match wasn't too bad, actually. It involved 2 good guys that one of them hadn't quite moved up the card yet. It was Taz with Paulie dangerously as his manager, taking on 2 Cold Scorpio, who looked kind of weird. He had like a flat top here and wearing a singlet, like a long singlet. I don't know. But Taz looked weird too. He had a full head of hair, and he had like a longer singlet. He actually had legs on it. It was more like a Kurt Angle style singlet. I don't know.
Oh.
It was weird seeing these 2. Taz no-sells the tumbleweed and then hits a Tazplex. Even though he pinned Too Cold Scorpio for the win, Scorpio's foot was on the ropes. Bill Alfonso comes out and says that the match is going to be restarted. He then says that if any wrestler touches him, he's going to shut ECW down. Paul Lee says no wrestler will ever touch him as long as he's around because he's not a wrestler and he's going to kick Alfonso's ass. And the crowd just, blows for this. Scorpio attacks Taz from behind with a chair. Paul gets distracted and Alfonso jumps him. Scorpio then puts the chair on Taz and hits the top rope leg drop. Alfonso counts the pin for the win. Joey Styles is incensed. He can't believe it. Screw that Bill Alfonso. I hope he dies. Joey was the most overdramatic commentator of all time. And I love Joey Styles, but man, just everything was hardcore with him. Speaking of him, he's in the ring saying that their hotline has the latest on Shane Douglas's negotiations with the WWF. And we all know where this goes. I've got to love Dean Douglas. Anyway, Douglas...
More to come.
Yeah.
Future episodes.
God help us. Douglas comes
he
out...
He wins the title.
Yeah, for what? A minute and a half? Anyway, Douglas comes out and he tells Joey Styles off for talking about his business and says that he's the only reason ECW is still alive. A little hard to argue in some instances. Styles asks Douglas if he's going to sell out, because apparently, going to actually get paid is a sellout. The crowd chants, "Shane is gay." I'm not...
That's,
I'm not making this up. These aren't my words. This is what the crowd in Philly chanted. Shane is gay. So there you go. At least it wasn't what they used to chant at the Dynamic Dudes. It said, Shane sucks something that starts with D.
He was wearing a WWF shirt too, by the way. I remember that.
Oh, okay. They blurred it out. I couldn't tell what it was.
Yeah, it was the old block logo.
Well, that makes sense because they said World Wrestling Federation a bunch of times, and they always bleeped out Federation. So it was World Wrestling and then bleep. Or, well, not bleep, but just no audio. As Shane talks, they chant, "We want Flair." Douglas then talks crap about Ric Flair and the fans. He continues, and the fans woo for 2 minutes straight. Douglas says that he's best friends with Cactus Jack for 12 years and says that he's leaving for the WWF. I don't know what the Cactus Jack thing had to do with anything. Woman, who I didn't even know was in ECW, comes out and asks Shane to join her and the Sandman. I didn't know that Woman was ever with the Sandman. Did you know that?
Oh, yeah, that was a huge thing.
Oh, I just knew her from WCW. I did not know that. Anyway, Douglas insults her, says she's been passed around the locker room more than anything. She slaps him. He backs her down, and then Sandman chases him off. Cactus Jack then attacks Sandman, and Douglas says tonight he's going to give Sandman the beating of his wrestling life. Not, his life, just his wrestling life. So there's a difference. Next up, Shane gets better, I promise. We get Raven and Stevie Richards defending the ECW tag team titles against who, Greg? Tommy Dreamer and Luna.
Tommy effing Dreamer.
That's not the one. Tommy Dreamer and Luna Vachon. Yes. This blew my mind. When Luna tosses Stevie Richards by his junk, she basically does the ballplex. Joey Styles says, "We'll all be damned. Stevie's got a pair after all." Raven slaps Dreamer's broken fingers into things, and Dreamer unwraps his hands. Basically, you know what will make my hand feel better? If I unwrap it. That's logical, right? Idiots.
Yep.
Raven gets tied up. What?
Second appearance of that epic mullet, by the way. Just got to point that out.
Wait, which one? Oh, Stevie's? Oh, well, yeah. He's all over this frickin' show. It's weird. Raven gets tied up in the ropes, and Luna hits a superplex on Stevie Richards into a pin, but Beulah runs out and throws powder in Luna's eyes. Stevie then pins her for the win. Ah, man. This was something. Then we get a Todd Gordon sighting. Yeah, unfortunately. We got a Todd Gordon sighting. He calls out Bill Alfonso and tells him that he is going to be the referee for tonight's Taipei death match. Alfonso agrees. And then this made me realize, oh my gosh, I'm about to watch a Taipei death match. It was Ian Rotten.
Well, look who's in it, though. At least it's a good...
Oh, yeah.
Never mind.
It's Ian versus Axel Rotten, the obese, like, morbidly obese Ian Rotten, who looks like he hasn't seen a gym in his entire life, versus Axel Rotten, who looks like he's seen a gym maybe twice in his life. At least Axel Rotten had legit wrestling credentials, believe it or not. Ian Rotten was just a dude eating Doritos on his couch that stepped into a wrestling ring. Anyway, Ian and Axel are both wearing white T-shirts, so you can see the hepatitis all over them when they get cut.
Good God.
Am I wrong?
I'm not touching that.
You shouldn't. It's hepatitis. See what I did there? Axel lets all the fans feel that he's got glass on his fists and it's real. Joey Styles says that if you're watching this for entertainment, quote, you're watching the wrong promotion. No kidding. After one punch to Ian, he starts to bleed a little bit over his left eye, and Bill Alfonso says that he's calling the end of the match because of a lack of vision for Ian. Joey Styles goes nuts on commentary, and then the Gangstas and Public Enemy brawl from the back to ringside. The police and security all restrain the four men. There was a lot of cops at this event, by the way. They restrain the four men, and it appears like New Jack is legit being arrested. And Joey Styles says, something tells me this is not New Jack's first run-in with the law. Bill Alfonso leaves with them. Todd Gordon asks if Bill Alfonso left the building, and then he restarts the Taipei death match. After these guys have shredded each other up and are nearly drained of all of their bodily fluids, Ian pours a bag of thumbtacks in the ring because, that's what we needed to amp this thing up. Then he gets backdropped onto him. Axel hits a running splash, pins him for the win. Thank God that is over because, man, that was sick. I don't know about you, Greg. I'm not one for, I don't get a hard-on for seeing guys slice each other up with shards of broken glass.
Hell no. I hate hardcore wrestling.
I like some, but when it goes that hard, I'm like, when you have the words death match in a fight, I'm done. Leave me out.
Not sure there's a Scream match of the year, but
yeah, God. We randomly go back to Tommy Dreamer and Luna beating up Raven and Stevie Richards all over the ringside area. Raven gets the upper hand, and both of them drop Dreamer with Raven drops Dreamer with an even flow on the tag titles. The Pitbulls then come out, and Raven tells them to super bomb Luna. They refuse, and Richards pie faces Pitbull number 1. Raven hits Pitbull number 2 with a chair in the back, and the Pitbulls fight back and lay out Raven and Richards. They then go to super bomb Richards, but the Dudleys, oddly enough, come in and jump the Pitbulls. Raven goads Dreamer. They brawl. Then Luna attacks Richards. The Pitbulls throw the Dudleys through the entrance wall, which is just like thin wood. And then Richards and Raven get the same treatment. The babyfaces fight back, and then the Dudleys attack them again before getting beat up, and they run off. And this was just a big brawl that went nowhere. We then get the world title match, which for some reason didn't close the show. But
well, look what is closing the show.
Yeah, we'll get to that. This one.
Will we?
Yeah, unfortunately. The Sandman with Woman defends the ECW World's Heavyweight title against Cactus Jack. Cactus has barbed wire wrapped around his right forearm and fist, which shows you where this one is going right out the gate. Sandman stands outside of the ring after the bell rings, like caning the ropes and laughing like a paste-eating idiot.
Oh, man.
He's like, oh, man, look at my stick. Cactus is outside at one point. Sandman takes a running leap over the top rope, not touching that rope at all, and canes Cactus on his way down. That was actually pretty impressive. At one point, Sandman wraps barbed wire around his entire body and repeatedly runs into and lands on Cactus Jack. Ugh. Cactus eventually pulls the shirt up and the barbed wire up around Sandman's face, puts a chair over him, and leg drops him off the second rope, but only gets a 2 count. ECW is nuts. Woman canes Cactus. Cactus shoves her down before breaking Sandman's cane. Sandman knocks Cactus down, then falls into the ref. And then Shane Douglas runs in and elbow drops the ref, then hits a pile driver on Sandman. He grabs the mic and says, I want to say he messed up here. He says, keep your friends closer and your enemies right by your side. I don't think that's how that goes. But anyway, he then hits Cactus.
He tried.
Yeah. Good job, Shane. He then hits Cactus Jack between the eyes with his cane, allowing Sandman to pin him for the win. Douglas then says, ECW can kiss my ass goodbye. Man.
Yeah.
Todd Gordon then comes out, and Shane Douglas says that if Todd goes down on one knee and begs him to stay, that he'll stay. And then Gordon fires Douglas while using the F-bomb, because got to get that in there. And then Douglas punches him and then rips his clothes off for some reason before punching a referee and then body slamming Todd Gordon. Another referee and 2 jobbers eat it as well. Then finally 911 runs in and chokeslams Shane straight to hell. Raven talked about 911 before. He was like, dude, when he was coming in and just chokeslamming people on the random, he was like, that was great. He was hugely over. He's like, once you actually put him in the ring and started giving him matches, like that just like blew it because he was terrible.
And that damn bell had a ring.
Yeah, basically. But now we go to the main event, and mercifully this is over. I will say this main event wasn't awful. It was the Public Enemy, Rocco Rock and Johnny Grunge versus the Gangstas, New Jack and Mustafa Saeed. These two guys, these guys just brawl all over with Mustafa and Rocco headed for the stage and New Jack sticking in the ring with Grunge. They just hit each other with everything that isn't nailed down, including a mailbox with the words "Eat" S-H-I-T on the side. Of course, all 4 men bleed. Public Enemy looks to me like ICP minus the clown paint, only they're both Violent J. They're using baseball bats, croquet mallets, tables, fans, computer keyboards, and more, just beating the tar out of each other. The match ends with Rocco Rock coming off the top rope with a croquet mallet to the back of Mustafa's head, getting the pin. The celebration didn't last long because the Gangstas jumped Public Enemy outside the ring and they brawl to the back. But then Public Enemy then comes back out to the ring to wave their hands while their song plays. And just a crap ton of sweaty marks get in the ring that have the look. And they all dance with Public Enemy. Seriously, if you have to watch one thing on the show, watch this. Just count the looks, bro, in that ring. It is just uncountable. So many. Mercifully, this just ends. Thank God.
You're not going to talk about the iconic moment?
What iconic moment?
About them dancing?
What about it? They waved their hands.
That's how it is. I mean, it's like, that's one of the greatest moments in ECW history, Paul said.
Yeah, well, I said they were all waving their arms, a bunch of sweaty marks got in the ring.
Yeah, I think it deserves more than that.
It does not. Well, I mean, if you want me to put it over, I did say if you have to watch one thing on the show, make it that, because just only for the fact that I just want everybody to see just all the sweaty neckbeards getting into the ring with all their fupas flopping around. I know I just buried everybody that was at that show, but seriously, like, watch this back, tell me I'm wrong. I dare you.
That's probably the worst piece of crap ever.
Wow, that's a crowded field, Greg. So